You want to know how I shattered my mother-in-law's kneecap, got her arrested on live video, and became the most hated woman in her church group? Simple. She tried to let my 5-year-old son die on her kitchen floor to protect her drug-dealing favorite son. And honestly, I'd do it again. Next time, I'd aim higher. My name is Danny. And that Sunday barbecue was supposed to be just another exercise in swallowing my pride for the sake of family. Liam was playing with his toy dinosaur on the patio. I was watching him through the sliding glass door while my mother-in-law Patricia held court in her avocado green kitchen, demanding we hand over $15,000. Not for a medical bill. Not for a mortgage. For Brandon. Brandon, her 27-year-old unemployed masterpiece. Brandon, who'd flunked out of 3 community colleges and claimed he was building a crypto empire. Brandon, who I'd caught snorting something in the garage 10 minutes earlier. Patricia stabbed a sausage link with a fork and pointed it at my husband Mark. It's an investment, Mark. Your brother needs this. You owe him. Mark, God love him, opened his mouth. Then closed it. Then opened it again. A goldfish in a polo shirt. I didn't wait for the goldfish to find his spine. No, I said. We're not funding his drug habit, Patricia. Silence. Patricia's head rotated toward me like a possessed lawn gnome. Excuse me? You heard me. I took a sip of my iced tea, eyes locked on hers, and I saw it, the switch. The moment she decided to burn me down. You miserable little gold digger, she hissed. You think you can waltz into my family and call shots? You and that sickly kid of yours. I stood up. The chair screeched. The room shrank to a pinprick. Finish that sentence, I said, very quietly. I dare you. Behind me, Brandon stumbled in from the garage, pupils blown wide, jaw tight. Mom, shut up. I don't need her money. He jabbed a finger at my chest. I need her to learn her place. I didn't see the shove coming. Not at me. Brandon lunged. I sidestepped. And behind me, for one split second I'll replay for the rest of my life, stood Liam. 180 pounds of unemployed felony slammed into a 38-pound child. Liam didn't scream. He just flew. The crunch of his head meeting the stone hearth sounded like a melon dropped from a roof. Blood. Too much blood. And my son, my little boy, lay still as wax on Patricia's pristine tile. Look what you did. Patricia shrieked, at me. He got in the way. I snatched my phone from my pocket, hands shaking so hard I nearly dropped it. Patricia's hand clamped onto my wrist. No, she spat. No cops. No ambulance. You want to ruin your brother-in-law's life? He's not my brother. And my son is dying. Move. I tried to shove past. She wedged herself against the front door, arms spread like a deranged scarecrow. Brandon has warrants, you stupid cow. Do you know what happens if they show up here? This is your fault. You should have controlled your kid. Liam gurgled on the floor behind me. A small, wet sound. I stopped hearing Patricia's voice. I stopped seeing her face. There was only the door. And the thing blocking me from saving my child. I didn't decide to kick her. My body just did it. A mother's primal, unfiltered, physics-defying thing. The flat of my sneaker connected with the side of her knee with a sound like cracking kindling. Patricia went airborne. I mean truly airborne, a 68-year-old projectile crashing backward through her own buffet table. Deviled eggs exploded. A bowl of coleslaw overturned onto her face. She ended up sprawled in the wreckage, one leg twisted wrong, screaming about Jesus and lawyers. I didn't look back. I scooped Liam into my arms, God, he was so light, so still, and ran. Behind me, Brandon was shouting. Mark was finally moving. Ahead of me, my car, my phone somehow still in my blood-slick hand, 911 already dialing. "Stay with me, baby," I whispered into my son's cold little ear. "Mommy's here. Mommy's got you. Nobody's ever going to hurt you again." The operator picked up. "What's your emergency?" I opened my mouth, and the laugh that came out was half sob, half battle cry. "You're gonna need a couple units, sweetheart. It's been a hell of a Sunday." I drove like a maniac. One hand on the wheel, the other pressed against Liam's head, trying to keep the bleeding under control with a dish towel I'd grabbed from the counter on my way out. The towel was printed with little cartoon roosters and the words, "Rise and Shine." It was already soaked through. Liam's eyes fluttered open once, just for a second. "Mommy, the dinosaur broke." "No, baby, the dinosaur's fine. You're fine. We're gonna get you fixed up." He didn't answer. His eyes rolled back, and his little body went limp again. I ran a red light. A semi blasted its horn. I didn't care. Let it hit me. Let it end this nightmare. No, wait, I couldn't think like that. Liam needed me. The hospital was 7 miles away. It felt like 700. Behind me, my phone buzzed endlessly. I glanced at the screen. Patricia's face, her contact photo, a smug selfie she'd made me take at a family brunch, where she'd spent the whole meal calling me the help. She was texting a novel. "You will pay for this, you psychotic bitch. I'm calling the cops on you. Assault on a senior citizen. You're going to prison." Then Mark's messages, a frantic stream. "Danny, where are you? Is Liam okay? My mom is saying you attacked her. Tell me what really happened. I'm so sorry. I should have stopped Brandon. Please just tell me where you are." I threw the phone onto the passenger seat. Mark. Sweet, spineless Mark. He'd been apologizing for his family since our first date. He'd apologized when Patricia served me a plate of plain lettuce at our engagement dinner because she didn't know what I ate. He'd apologized when Brandon accidentally spilled red wine on my wedding dress. He'd apologized when Patricia called CPS on us last year because she disagreed with how we were raising Liam. The case was closed in 2 days. The social worker had rolled her eyes and told me, "Honey, you're fine. That woman's got a screw loose." I never filed a report. I never pushed back. Because Mark would beg me to keep the peace. Because family was family. Family. The word tasted like battery acid. I skidded into the ER bay, barely putting the car in park before I was out, yanking open the back door, pulling Liam into my arms. His blood was everywhere now. My shirt. My jeans. The seatbelt. A nurse by the entrance saw me and her face changed instantly. She didn't ask questions. She just shouted for a gurney and ran toward me. "What happened?" she asked, already assessing, already moving. "Head trauma. Fell, was pushed, onto a stone hearth. He's been in and out of consciousness. Bleeding for at least 20 minutes. Who pushed him?" "My brother-in-law." She looked at me, and something in her eyes went hard. Professional, but hard. "Okay, Mom. We've got him now." The gurney arrived. They laid Liam down, and I saw the blood on the white sheets, and my knees buckled. The nurse caught my elbow. "You stay with me." "What's his name?" "Liam. Liam Carter. He's 5. He loves dinosaurs and macaroni and cheese. Please. Please save him. We will." "Has he had any seizures?" "No. I don't think so. He just went quiet." They were already wheeling him through the double doors. A doctor joined them, a young woman with a calm, focused face. She looked at me. We're going to do a CT scan and check for brain swelling. You can't come past this point. I need you to stay here and fill out paperwork. I'm not leaving him. You won't be leaving him. You'll be 10 feet away while we work. Look at me. I looked at her. I will do everything in my power. What's your name? Danielle. Danny. Danny, I'm Dr. Chen. I'm going to take care of your son. I need you to let me do my job. Okay? I nodded. My throat was too tight for words. The door swung shut, and I was alone in the hallway, covered in my son's blood, still holding the stupid rooster towel. A registration clerk appeared with a clipboard. She was maybe 22, her voice practiced and gentle. Ma'am, can I get some information? I started laughing. I couldn't stop. The clerk looked terrified. I tried to speak, but the laughter just kept coming, wet and broken, until it turned into sobs, and I was on my knees on the hospital floor, howling like an animal. That's where Mark found me. He came running down the hallway, pale, tie askew, looking like he'd aged 10 years in 40 minutes. Danny. Danny, oh my God. He dropped beside me and tried to pull me into his arms. I let him. For about 3 seconds. Then I shoved him away so hard he fell backward. You let this happen. I know. You stood there while your brother almost killed our son. I know. You let your mother block the door. She told me he could die and she didn't care. Mark flinched like I'd slapped him. What? She said he'd wake up. She said not to make a scene. She grabbed my phone. She tried to stop me from calling 911. Danny, I didn't hear, I didn't know. Of course you didn't hear, Mark. You never hear anything. You're too busy being a good little boy for mommy. He looked gut-punched. Good. Where's Liam now? He asked. CT scan. Possible brain swelling. They don't know if he's going to be okay. Mark put his head in his hands. I wanted to feel sorry for him. I didn't. Not yet. Maybe not ever. My phone rang. Patricia again. I answered. You think you can put your hands on me, you trailer trash whore? I'm at the police station right now. Filing assault charges. I'll have your son taken away so fast your head will spin. You're done. Do you hear me? Done. I hit the speaker button. Mark heard every word. His face went blank. Then it went cold. A look I'd never seen before. Not in 10 years of marriage. He took the phone from my hand. Mom, he said, and his voice was dead calm. I'm only going to say this once. Mark. Oh, thank God. Are you okay? Did that monster hurt you too? Mom, stop. Listen to me. Brandon pushed Liam. Liam has a brain bleed. If he dies, Brandon is a murderer. You blocked the door. You stopped us from getting help. That makes you an accessory. I am going to testify to every word you said. Every single word. And then I'm going to make sure you and Brandon rot in prison for the rest of your miserable lives. Silence on the line. Then Patricia's voice, tiny and terrified, Mark, baby, you don't mean that. You're upset. I have never meant anything more. Goodbye, Mom. Do not call again. He hung up. I stared at him. Who are you, and what have you done with my husband? He didn't smile. I don't know. I think I killed him in the car on the way here. I think I finally grew a spine, and it broke me in half. He looked at me, eyes wet. I am so sorry, Danny. I'm so sorry I wasn't there when you needed me. I wanted to stay angry. The anger was the only thing keeping me upright. But then a nurse came through the double doors, and everything else fell away. "Mrs. Carter?" I was on my feet. "Yes? Is he okay?" "He's stable for the moment. The CT shows a small subdural hematoma. He's being prepped for surgery. Dr. Chen will explain more. You can see him for 1 minute before we take him up." 1 minute. I grabbed Mark's hand without thinking, and we followed the nurse through the doors and into a small, bright room where Liam lay on a narrow bed, head bandaged, surrounded by beeping machines. He looked so small. So impossibly small. I leaned over and pressed my lips to his forehead. "Mommy's here, little man. You're gonna be okay. You're the toughest kid I know. You once ate an entire crayon and asked for more. You can get through this." No response. Just the steady beep of the monitor, the only proof his heart was still beating. Mark touched Liam's hand, his shoulders shaking. "I love you, buddy. Daddy loves you so much." The nurse touched my shoulder gently. "We need to take him now." I kissed Liam one more time, and then they wheeled him away, and the doors closed, and we were standing in the hallway again, empty, hollow, waiting. That was the longest night of my life. Not because of the surgery, that took 4 hours, and the waiting was torture, but it was a passive kind of pain. No, the real ordeal started at about hour 2, when the waiting room door slid open and in walked Patricia, her leg in a brace, flanked by Aunt Linda, Cousin Rita, and 2 church ladies I recognized from Patricia's Facebook prayer circles. Patricia was limping dramatically, like a Shakespearean actor who'd overcommit to the role. The brace was huge. Probably unnecessary. I later learned she'd refused X-rays because her suffering was enough evidence. Behind them, a uniformed police officer. My stomach dropped. "That's her," Patricia announced, pointing a trembling finger at me. "That's the woman who attacked me." The cop, a tired-looking man in his 50s with a salt and pepper mustache, walked toward me. "Ma'am, I need to ask you a few questions." "My son is in brain surgery right now," I said. "Can this wait?" "I'm afraid not. We've received a report of an assault." "Did you kick Patricia Carter?" "Yes." He blinked. Clearly not expecting a confession. "Can you explain the circumstances?" I took a deep breath. "Stay calm. Don't give them a reason." Her son Brandon shoved my 5-year-old child into a stone hearth. My son was bleeding from the head, unconscious. Patricia blocked the door, took my phone, and refused to let me leave or call for help. She said Brandon had warrants and couldn't have cops showing up. So yes, officer, I kicked her. I kicked her one time in the leg so I could get past her and save my child's life. The cop's expression didn't change, but I saw something flicker behind his eyes. Patricia hobbled forward. "Lies. All lies. Brandon never touched that boy." She pushed the child herself. "I saw it. She's a violent, unstable woman. Arrest her." "You're lying," Mark said. Everyone turned. Mark was standing by the vending machines, holding 2 cups of terrible coffee. He looked exhausted, but his posture was different. Straighter. His eyes, clearer. "Mom, you're lying. I saw everything. You blocked the door. You told Danny to let Liam bleed. I have the recording." Silence. The church ladies exchanged looks. Aunt Linda's jaw dropped. Cousin Rita, who'd always sort of liked me, crossed her arms and stared daggers at Patricia. "Recording?" Patricia's voice went up an octave. "What recording?" Mark pulled out his phone. Dad recorded the whole thing on his little voice recorder. He slipped me the file in the parking lot after you ran inside to call your lawyer. "Want to hear it?" He pressed play before anyone could object. The audio was scratchy, but every word was clear. Patricia's screech, "No cops. No ambulance. You want to ruin your brother-in-law's life?" Then Brandon, slurring, "The little bastard shouldn't have been in the way." Then Patricia again, "Put him on the couch. He'll wake up. Don't you dare make a scene." And finally, the sound of my son gurgling, and my voice breaking, "My son is dying. Move." The recording ended. The silence was deafening. Aunt Linda turned to Patricia, her face a mask of fury. "You told us she attacked you for no reason. You told us she was the violent one. Linda, you don't understand." "Oh, I understand plenty." And then Aunt Linda, 71 years old, devout churchgoer, grandmother of 8, swung her oversized leather purse and smacked Patricia upside the head. It made a sound like a watermelon getting thumped at a farmer's market. Patricia shrieked and stumbled into a plastic chair, her leg brace skidding on the linoleum. One of the church ladies gasped. The other one looked like she was fighting a smile. "That's for my grandnephew, you monster," Linda said. The police officer cleared his throat. He looked at Patricia, then at me. "Ma'am, I think I've heard enough. I'm going to need a copy of that recording." He turned to Patricia. "Mrs. Carter, I'd advise you to leave this hospital immediately before I start asking questions about your son's outstanding warrants." Patricia's mouth opened and closed like a dying fish. "But, she kicked me. Based on the evidence, I'd say that kick potentially saved a child's life. Frankly, ma'am, you're lucky she didn't do worse. Now go. Before I reconsider my generous lack of paperwork on the obstruction charge." Patricia looked around the room, at her sister's contemptuous glare, at the church ladies who suddenly wouldn't meet her eyes, at the officer who was now pointedly resting his hand on his taser. She drew herself up, dignity in tatters, and limped toward the elevator. "This isn't over," she hissed as she passed me. "You'll regret this." "Already do," I said. "Should have aimed for both knees." She made a noise like a teakettle about to boil, but the elevator doors closed on her before she could let it out. Aunt Linda came over and pulled me into a tight hug. She smelled like lavender and righteous fury. "You poor thing. I am so sorry. I had no idea. She told us you were on drugs." "I'm not on drugs. Honey, I know that now. If you need anything, money, a place to stay, someone to key that woman's car, you call me." I laughed, a real one this time, and it felt like breathing again. Then Dr. Chen appeared in the doorway, still in her scrubs, face unreadable, and my heart stopped. "Mrs. Carter? The surgery went well. Liam is in recovery." I didn't hear anything else. The words blurred into a warm hum of relief that washed over me like a wave. Mark caught me before my legs gave out. "He's going to be okay?" I whispered. Dr. Chen smiled. "He's a fighter. We'll monitor him closely for the next 48 hours, but I'm optimistic. He's asking for a dinosaur." I laughed and cried at the same time, which is a very undignified sound. I didn't care. Nothing mattered except that my little boy was alive. We were allowed to see him a few minutes later. He was groggy, head wrapped in clean white bandages, but his eyes were open. "Mommy?" "Yeah, baby?" "The dinosaur broke for real. Can I get a new one?" Mark choked out a laugh. "Buddy, I'll buy you an entire dinosaur museum." Liam looked skeptical. "You don't got that much money." "I'll figure it out." It was, without question, the most beautiful conversation I'd ever heard. Later that night, after Liam had fallen into a peaceful sleep, Mark and I sat in the hard plastic chairs of the PICU waiting room, not talking, just existing next to each other. Then Robert, Mark's father, appeared in the doorway. He looked smaller than he had that morning. More fragile. But his eyes were clear, and he was holding something in his hand, a wedding ring. He sat down across from us and held out the ring, like an offering. "I'm leaving her," he said. Mark stared. "Dad. I should have done it 40 years ago. When she started breaking you. When she turned Brandon into, whatever he is." I stayed quiet. I thought that was my job. To keep the peace. He laughed, a sad, dry sound. There was no peace. There was just her, winning, every single day. "Dad, it's not your fault." "Yes it is. Because I saw her do it, and I said nothing. Today, I saw her try to let my grandson die. And I still almost said nothing." He put the ring on the table between us. "But I hit record. That's the first brave thing I've done since I married her." Mark reached out and took his father's hand. They didn't hug. They weren't that kind of family. But something passed between them, something heavy and old, and finally letting go. "Where will you go?" I asked. "I rented a room at the motel off Route 9. It's got a pool. Terrible continental breakfast." He smiled, and for the first time, I saw the man he might have been without her. "I'd like to see Liam more. If you'll let me." "Of course," I said. "He needs his grandpa." Robert nodded, stood up, and walked out into the night, a 70-year-old man starting over. I'd never been prouder of anyone in my life. 3 days later, Liam was discharged. We brought him home to our little house on Maple Street, and I didn't let him out of my sight for approximately 6 months. Brandon was arrested the same night, picked up at a motel 2 towns over with a bag of pills and a fake ID. His warrants caught up with him. So did the new charges: child endangerment, possession with intent, assault. He'd be looking at a decade minimum. Patricia was charged with obstruction and filing a false report. The DA offered her a plea deal: no jail time if she completed court-mandated counseling and a restraining order was put in place. She took it, but not before her mugshot ended up on the county Facebook page, where it was shared 400 times, including by Aunt Linda, who captioned it, "My sister, everybody. Pray for her. She's a monster." The church prayer circle quietly voted her out. Mark started therapy. Real therapy, not just talking about his feelings over beers. He learned about enmeshment and boundaries and why he'd spent his whole life trying to please a woman who couldn't be pleased. It took a year, but he started to look different. Lighter. Like someone had unclenched a fist inside his chest. Me? I quit my job. The corporate one that was slowly eating my soul. I'd been a marketing director for a company that sold industrial lubricants. The word lubricant alone made me want to scream by the end. So I cashed out part of my 401k and opened a bakery. I called it Spitfire Sweets. The logo is a cupcake with a little flame on top. The tagline: "So good you'll kick someone." Business is booming. And Liam? Liam is 7 now. He has a scar on the back of his head that he shows off like a war wound. He still loves dinosaurs, still hates vegetables, still sleeps with the stuffed triceratops the nurses gave him in the ICU. He doesn't remember much about that day. A blessing, probably. But sometimes, when he's asleep, I sit on the edge of his bed and watch him breathe. And I let myself go back there, not to the blood, or the fear, or the sound of Patricia screaming, but to the one moment that changed everything. The moment I kicked down a door made of hate and entitlement and narcissism. The moment I chose my son over my reputation. The moment I stopped being polite and started being a force of nature. I'd do it again. In a heartbeat. And next time, like I said, I'd aim higher. A week after Liam came home, I thought the nightmare was over. I was wrong. It was just changing shape. The first envelope arrived on a Tuesday. No return address. Postmarked from the county jail. Inside, a single sheet of paper. Brandon's handwriting, all jagged angles and heavy pressure, like he'd carved the words into the page with a ballpoint pen. You think you won? I'm gonna make sure you lose everything. Starting with that kid. I read it 3 times. Then I walked to the kitchen, opened the drawer by the fridge, and pulled out the taser I'd bought online 3 days earlier. The one shaped like a lipstick tube. Mark had laughed when I ordered it. You're paranoid, he'd said. Your brother is in jail because of me. Your mother's church friends cross the street when they see her coming. Paranoid is just another word for prepared. I didn't show Mark the letter. He was doing so well, therapy twice a week, finally talking about his childhood without flinching. I didn't want to drag him back into the darkness. So I folded the letter, slipped it into a Ziploc bag, and locked it in the fireproof safe where we kept Liam's birth certificate and our passports. Evidence. I was learning to think like a woman who might need it. The second envelope came 3 days later. Same handwriting. Same jail postmark. This one had a photograph inside, a grainy printout of Liam at the playground, taken through the chain-link fence. Someone had circled his head in red Sharpie. My hands shook as I added it to the safe. I called the jail. Spoke to a supervisor, a woman named Sergeant Reyes who sounded like she'd been dealing with Brandon's type for 20 years. Ma'am, I can flag his mail for review, but I can't stop him from sending it unless there's a direct threat of violence. There is a direct threat. He sent a picture of my son with his head circled in red. Silence. Then, okay, that qualifies. I'm putting a hold on his outgoing mail right now. You need to file a police report. And ma'am? Yeah. Keep that taser charged. I filed the report that afternoon. Officer Delgado, the same tired cop from the hospital, took my statement. He looked at the letters, looked at the photograph, and his jaw tightened. I'm going to pay Mr. Carter a visit. He needs to understand that threatening a child from inside a jail cell is a great way to add 10 years to his sentence. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. His mother's been calling the station twice a day, trying to get the assault charges against you reopened. She's a piece of work, that one. Tell me about it. I kicked her through a buffet table. He almost smiled. I read the report. Wish I'd seen it. 2 days later, Mark came home from work with a strange look on his face. My mother called me at the office. I put down the whisk I was holding. I'd been testing a new recipe for Spitfire Sweets, lemon bars with a cayenne kick. How did she get your work number? She called the main line and asked for me. Said it was a family emergency. He loosened his tie, sat down heavily at the kitchen table. She wants to meet. Just her. No Brandon, no lawyers. She says she wants to apologize. I laughed. I couldn't help it. Mark, your mother has never apologized for anything in her life. Last Thanksgiving, she blamed the dog when she burned the turkey. I know. She once told me my homemade lasagna was ambitious and then fed it to the neighbor's pigs. I remember. So what's her angle? Mark rubbed his temples. I don't know. But she sounded different. Quiet. Scared, almost. She said Robert served her with divorce papers and she's going to lose the house. She said she has no one left. Because she drove everyone away. I know. But Danny, she's still my mother. I wanted to scream. I wanted to shake him and yell that this woman had tried to let our son die. But I looked at his face, really looked, and I saw not weakness but exhaustion. The exhaustion of a man who'd spent 40 years loving someone who didn't love him back. What do you want to do? I asked. I want to hear what she has to say. Alone. In a public place. With my phone recording the whole time. And if it's a trap? Then at least we'll have it on tape. I kissed his forehead. You're finally learning. They met at a Panera Bread 2 towns over. Mark sat in a corner booth with his phone on the table, recording app open. Patricia arrived 15 minutes late, limping heavily. Mark later told me the limp disappeared the moment she forgot anyone was watching. She slid into the booth across from him and immediately started crying. I've been a terrible mother. Mark didn't argue. I let my love for Brandon blind me. I made excuses for him. I hurt you, and I hurt Danny, and I almost let something unforgivable happen to my grandson. Still, Mark said nothing. He'd learned from the therapist, silence makes guilty people fill the void. Patricia dabbed her eyes with a napkin. I want to make things right. I'm selling the house. I want to give you and Danny half the money. $50,000. For Liam's college fund. Mark's eyebrows went up. That was not what he'd expected. And what do you want in return? Patricia's tears stopped like someone had turned off a faucet. I want you to drop the restraining order. And I want Danny to retract her statement about the incident. So I can see my grandson again. There it was. Mark picked up his phone, stopped the recording, and stood up. Mom, I have a counteroffer. Yes? You're going to stop contacting us. You're going to stop calling my office and my wife and the police station. You're going to let the DA's case against Brandon proceed without any more interference. And in exchange, I won't release this recording to the DA showing you attempting to bribe a witness. Patricia's face went gray. Bribe? I was offering a gift. $50,000 in exchange for dropping legal charges. That's a bribe. That's a felony. You wouldn't. You're my son. I'm also Liam's father. And I'm done choosing you over him. He walked out. Left her sitting in the booth, surrounded by the scent of fresh-baked bread and the ruins of her final scheme. When he told me the story that night, I poured him a whiskey and kissed him like we were teenagers again. That, I said, was incredibly hot. Yeah. Yeah. Say felony again. He laughed, and it was the best sound I'd heard in weeks. But Patricia wasn't done. Of course she wasn't. A week later, I got a call from Liam's school. The principal, Mrs. Okonkwo, sounded strained. Mrs. Carter, there's been an incident. Liam is fine, she added quickly, but we need you to come in. I was there in 12 minutes. Liam was sitting in the principal's office, swinging his legs and eating a cookie. He looked up when I came in and said, "Mommy, a lady tried to pick me up." My blood turned to ice. What lady? Mrs. Okonkwo pulled me aside. A woman approached the playground fence during recess. She called Liam by name and told him his mommy sent her to take him home. Liam, thank God, remembered the safety talk you gave him. He said no and ran straight to the teacher on duty. What did she look like? White woman, late 60s, gray hair, wearing a leg brace. Patricia. I pulled out my phone and called Officer Delgado right there in the principal's office. She tried to kidnap my son. Delgado's voice went tight. I'm on my way. The school had security cameras. The footage was grainy but unmistakable, Patricia, brace and all, limping along the chain-link fence, crouching down to talk to Liam through the gaps. Liam backing away. Patricia reaching through, trying to grab his arm. Liam running. I watched the video 6 times. Each time, I wanted to reach through the screen and do more than kick her knee. When Delgado arrived, he watched it too. His mustache twitched. Attempted child abduction. That's a real charge. Not obstruction, not filing a false report. A felony with teeth. Arrest her. I intend to. But I need you to do something for me first. What? Stay here. Let us handle it. Don't go to her house. Don't do anything that could jeopardize the case. I wanted to argue. I wanted to drive to Patricia's avocado green nightmare house and finish what I'd started at the barbecue. But I looked at Liam, sitting there with his cookie, telling Mrs. Okonkwo about Triceratops, and I knew Delgado was right. Fine. But you'd better get her. Ma'am, he said, tipping his hat, it would be my genuine pleasure. They arrested Patricia at her home 2 hours later. According to the report, she answered the door in her bathrobe, saw the officers, and immediately started screaming that she was the victim of a conspiracy. She tried to slam the door, but Delgado had his foot in the gap, and she ended up on the floor with her bathrobe flying open and her leg brace skittering across the hallway. A neighbor filmed the whole thing. It was on YouTube by dinner time. Aunt Linda sent me the link with 3 crying laughing emojis and a single word, karma. But even that wasn't the end. Because when the police searched Patricia's house, they found Brandon's bedroom exactly as he'd left it, and in his closet, behind a false panel, they discovered things that would change everything. Maps. Hand-drawn floor plans. Photographs taken through windows. A burner phone. And a notebook filled with Brandon's handwriting, detailing a plan to break into our house, tie up Mark and me, and take the kids somewhere they'll never find him. He'd been planning it for months. Even before the barbecue. Even before Liam got hurt. The letters from jail had just been a preview. When Delgado called to tell me, I sat down on the kitchen floor and didn't get up for a long time. Mark came home to find me there, phone still pressed to my ear, staring at the wall. Danny? What's wrong? I handed him the phone. Listen to the voicemail Delgado left. He listened. His face went through several colors I'd never seen on a human before. He was going to take Liam. Yes. He was going to tie us up and take our son. Yes. Mark put the phone down. Then he walked to the garage. I heard the sound of his toolbox opening. He came back holding a baseball bat. His knuckles were white around the handle. I'm going to the jail. Mark. I'm going to the jail, and I'm going to find my brother, and I'm going to. Mark. He stopped. Looked at me. His eyes were wet. They have him, I said. They have all the evidence. He's never getting out. Patricia's never getting out. It's over. We won. It doesn't feel like winning. I know. He dropped the bat. It clattered on the tile. Then he dropped to his knees and wrapped his arms around my waist and cried into my shoulder like a little boy. I held him. I held him and stroked his hair and thought about all the ways this family had broken him, and all the ways he was slowly putting himself back together. We're going to be okay, I said. You know how I know? How? Because Liam's in the other room, building a Lego dinosaur, and he already asked for pizza for dinner, and the biggest problem in his life right now is that we're out of chocolate milk. That's because of you. Because you stood up. Because you chose us. He looked up at me, eyes red. I should have chosen you years ago. Better late than never, handsome. That night, after Liam was asleep, Mark and I sat on the porch with a bottle of wine and watched the fireflies blink in the darkness. Do you think he'll remember any of this? Mark asked. When he's older? Probably not the details. But he'll remember that we protected him. That when things got bad, we fought for him. You fought for him. I just watched. Hey. I took his hand. You stood up to your mother. You gave the police the recording. You told the DA you'd testify. That's not nothing. It still feels like not enough. It never feels like enough. That's how you know you're a parent. He was quiet for a moment. Then he said, I want to adopt another kid. I choked on my wine. What? Not right now. Someday. There are so many kids out there who need someone to fight for them. And I feel like, I don't know. Like I have all this fight in me now, and I want to use it for something good. I stared at him. This man. This goldfish in a polo shirt. Who'd been so afraid of his mother that he couldn't say no to a second helping of her terrible meatloaf. Now he wanted to adopt. You're serious. I'm serious. I've been thinking about it since the hospital. When I was sitting in that waiting room, not knowing if Liam was going to live or die, I made a promise. If he made it, I'd be a different person. I'd be the kind of father he deserved. And the kind of father another kid might need? Yeah. He smiled, a little sheepish. Is that crazy? I leaned over and kissed him. It's the least crazy thing you've ever said. 3 months later, Brandon's trial began. He was charged with attempted kidnapping, conspiracy, child endangerment, drug possession, and about a dozen other things the DA had stacked on like a nightmare layer cake. The evidence was overwhelming: the notebook, the maps, the photos, the letters from jail, the security footage of Patricia at the school, the recording of the barbecue. His public defender tried to argue that Brandon was a victim of his upbringing, that Patricia had enabled him, warped him, made him believe he could do no wrong. Which was true, in a way. But it wasn't an excuse, and the jury saw right through it. The trial lasted 2 weeks. I testified. Mark testified. Robert testified, his voice steady and sad as he described 40 years of watching his wife destroy his sons. Even Aunt Linda took the stand, clutching her purse in her lap like she might swing it at any moment. The jury deliberated for 3 hours. Guilty on all counts. Brandon was sentenced to 25 years. No parole. Patricia's trial was shorter. Her lawyer tried an insanity defense, said she'd been driven mad by the stress of her son's arrest, that she wasn't responsible for her actions. But the jury saw the video of her calmly approaching the school, calmly calling Liam's name, calmly reaching through the fence. That wasn't madness. That was calculation. She got 10 years. Attempted kidnapping. Obstruction. Witness tampering. The judge called her a danger to her own family and denied bail pending appeal. When the sentence was read, Patricia turned to look at me. Her face was twisted with a rage so pure it was almost beautiful. You, she mouthed. You did this. I smiled and mouthed back, you're welcome. That afternoon, we had a party at our house. Nothing fancy, just pizza and beer and the people who'd stood by us through the storm. Aunt Linda brought deviled eggs. Deliberately, she said, so we could reclaim the trauma. I ate 4 of them. Officer Delgado came in civilian clothes. He brought his wife, a tiny woman with a huge laugh, and they stayed until midnight, telling stories about the weirdest arrests they'd ever made. Patricia and Brandon were in his top 5. Number 1 is still the guy who tried to rob a bank with a banana in a paper bag, he said. But your mother-in-law is a close second. Robert came too. He'd lost weight, started going to the gym, and was taking a pottery class at the community center. He'd made us a lopsided vase that we put on the mantel like a trophy. I'm dating, he announced, halfway through his 3rd beer. Mark choked. You're what? Dating. Her name is Gloria. She's in my pottery class. She's 68 and she rides a motorcycle. Dad, that's amazing. I know. Robert grinned, and it transformed his face. 40 years I spent with that woman. 40 years of silence. I'm making up for lost time. Are you happy? I asked. He thought about it. You know, I think I am. For the first time since I was 25, I actually am. After everyone left, after we'd put Liam to bed and cleaned up the pizza boxes and the deviled egg platter, Mark and I collapsed on the couch together. We did it, he said. It's really over. It's over. So what now? I leaned my head on his shoulder. Now we live. Boringly. Peacefully. With as little drama as possible. That sounds amazing. Doesn't it? We sat there in the quiet, and I thought about the woman I'd been before all of this, the woman who swallowed her anger and smiled through gritted teeth and let Patricia walk all over her because she was afraid of being the difficult daughter-in-law. I barely recognized her now. She felt like a ghost. The new Danny didn't swallow anything. The new Danny kicked first and asked questions later. The new Danny had a taser in her purse and a bakery called Spitfire Sweets and a husband who'd finally learned to fight. I liked her. I liked her a lot. And somewhere, in a jail cell 100 miles away, Patricia was learning to live with the consequences of underestimating her. I hope the food is terrible. I hope the bed is hard. And I hope every night, when she closes her eyes, she hears the crack of my sneaker against her knee and remembers the day she pushed a mother too far. Sweet dreams, Patricia. You earned them. The years after the trials were quiet. Not the tense, waiting for the other shoe to drop quiet of my marriage before the barbecue. A different kind of quiet. The kind you earn. Liam turned 7, then 8, then 9. The scar on the back of his head faded to a thin white line. He stopped showing it off to strangers and started forgetting it was there. We didn't forget. Mark and I never forgot. But we learned to live with the memory, the way you learn to live with a limp or a trick knee. It's always there. It just stops being the only thing you think about. Spitfire Sweets outgrew my kitchen in 2 years. I hired 3 employees, then 5, then 10. We moved into a proper storefront downtown, with big windows and a pink neon sign that flickered, "So good you'll kick someone," in looping script. The local paper did a profile on us. The headline read, "From Corporate Burnout to Cupcake Queen." Patricia would have hated it. I framed the article and hung it in the bathroom. Mark quit his job too. The therapy had unearthed a lot of things, including the fact that he'd never wanted to be an accountant. He'd wanted to be a woodworker. His mother had told him it was beneath their family. So he'd spent 20 years in a cubicle, pushing numbers around, dying by inches. He started building furniture in the garage. First a bookshelf for Liam. Then a dining table for us. Then custom pieces for clients who found him through word of mouth. By the time Liam was 10, Mark had a waiting list 6 months long and calluses on his hands that he showed off like trophies. "I made something today," he'd say, coming in from the garage with sawdust in his hair. "I can see that." "No, I mean I really made something. With my hands. It's going to be in someone's house for 50 years. I'd kiss his dusty forehead and say, "I'm proud of you." And I was. God, I was. The goldfish had become a carpenter. Robert married Gloria in a small ceremony at the courthouse. She wore a leather jacket over her wedding dress and arrived on her motorcycle. Liam was the ring bearer. He took his job very seriously, walking down the aisle with the pillow held at chest height like he was carrying the nuclear football. At the reception, Robert gave a speech. He wasn't a natural public speaker, his voice wobbled and he forgot half his notes, but he said one thing I'll never forget. "I spent most of my life being a ghost in my own house. I thought that was my job. To be invisible. To not make waves." He looked at Gloria, who was wiping her eyes with a napkin. Then my daughter-in-law kicked my ex-wife through a buffet table, and I realized, waves aren't always a bad thing. Sometimes you need a tsunami. Everyone cheered. I took a bow. Aunt Linda whistled. Patricia and Brandon were still in prison. We didn't talk about them much. They'd become a story we told at parties, the barbecue, the kick, the arrest, and the story had taken on a life of its own. I'd hear strangers repeat it back to me, embellished beyond recognition. I heard she drop-kicked her through a wall. I heard the mother-in-law was on fire. I heard the cops arrested the whole family and the dog testified. I never corrected them. The truth was wild enough. Let people have their legends. Brandon's letters had stopped. The prison had flagged his mail permanently after the notebook was discovered, and he'd apparently lost interest in threatening us. According to the grapevine, Aunt Linda kept tabs through a friend of a friend who worked in the prison system. He'd found religion. Or religion had found him. Either way, he'd stopped being our problem. Patricia was a different story. She'd been a model prisoner for the first 3 years. Attended every therapy session. Volunteered in the prison library. Wrote a letter to the parole board that was apparently very moving, full of remorse and accountability and quotes from the Bible. The board denied her anyway. The prosecutor had submitted a statement from us, from me, from Mark, from Robert, detailing the pattern of abuse and manipulation. The board ruled that Patricia was a continuing threat to her family and deferred her next hearing for 5 years. She did not take it well. I heard about it from Officer Delgado, who'd been promoted to detective and still sent me a Christmas card every year. She had a meltdown in the common room, he told me over coffee one afternoon. Screaming about you. About Mark. About the conspiracy that put her away. They had to put her in solitary for a week. Is she still a threat? Honestly? He stirred his coffee, thoughtful. I don't think she ever stopped being a threat. She's just out of reach now. But if she ever gets out, she'd come for us. She'd try. So I kept the taser charged. I kept the security cameras running. I kept the letters and the photographs and the court transcripts in the fireproof safe, just in case I ever needed to prove, again, that my family had been through a war. Liam started middle school. He was tall for his age, all legs and elbows, with Mark's brown eyes and my stubborn chin. He still loved dinosaurs, but now he loved them in a more sophisticated way. He could name 50 species and explain the difference between the Jurassic and Cretaceous periods with the gravity of a museum docent. He wanted to be a paleontologist. He wanted to dig up bones in Montana. He wanted to discover a new species and name it after himself. Liomosaurus, he said. It's got a ring to it. It really doesn't, I said. Liomosaurus rex. Now you're just making it worse. He grinned, and I saw the 5-year-old he'd been, the one who'd asked for a new dinosaur from his hospital bed. The grin was the same. Everything else had grown. Mark and I started the adoption process when Liam was 11. It was slow, bureaucratic, invasive in ways we hadn't anticipated. Social workers interviewed us, our friends, our neighbors, Liam's teachers. They dug into our finances and our marriage and our mental health histories. They asked about the barbecue, about the trials, about Patricia and Brandon. How has your family processed that trauma? One social worker asked, pen poised over her clipboard. Therapy, I said. A lot of therapy. And a really good bakery. She didn't smile. Social workers rarely did. But we passed. Every interview, every home visit, every background check. And 18 months after we started, we got a call. There's a child, the caseworker said. A girl. 6 years old. Her name is Maya. She's been in foster care for 2 years. She needs a permanent home. Mark and I drove to the foster home the next day. Maya was small for her age, with dark curls and watchful eyes that had seen too much. She didn't smile when we introduced ourselves. She didn't run to hug us. She sat on the floor with a coloring book and watched us like we might disappear at any moment. She's been through a lot, the foster mother said. Her biological parents, well. It's all in the file. She's slow to trust. So are we, I said. I sat down on the floor across from Maya. I didn't try to touch her. I didn't gush about how excited we were. I just picked up a crayon and started coloring. What are you drawing? I asked. A dragon. Cool. Can I draw one too? She looked at me for a long moment. Then she pushed a piece of paper toward me. We colored in silence for 20 minutes. When I finished my dragon, purple, with orange polka dots, objectively hideous, she looked at it and almost smiled. That's a weird dragon, she said. Thank you. I'm a weird person. Me too. And just like that, we understood each other. Maya moved in 3 weeks later. The first month was hard. She had nightmares. She hoarded food in her bedroom. She flinched when Mark moved too quickly. She tested every boundary we set, waiting for us to snap, to scream, to show her that we were just like the adults who'd failed her before. We didn't snap. We didn't scream. We just kept showing up. And slowly, inch by inch, she started to believe we would keep showing up. Liam was the one who really won her over. He was 12 now, on the cusp of teenagerhood, but he was patient with her in a way that made my heart ache. He let her play with his old dinosaur toys. He taught her the difference between a T-Rex and a velociraptor. He didn't get annoyed when she followed him around the house like a shadow. She's been through stuff, he told me one night, when I was tucking him in. Like me. Like you? I mean, I don't remember the barbecue stuff. Not really. But I remember being scared. And I remember you and Dad making me feel safe. He shrugged, a preteen gesture of studied nonchalance. I want to do that for her. I kissed his forehead and tried not to cry. You're a good kid, Liomosaurus Rex. Mom. That name is terrible. I know. Go to sleep. The call came on a Thursday afternoon, 6 months after Maya moved in. I was in the bakery kitchen, up to my elbows in buttercream, when my phone buzzed. Detective Delgado's name on the screen. I wiped my hands and answered. If this is about the Christmas card, you're 2 months early. Danny. His voice was tight. Patricia's out. The world tilted. I grabbed the edge of the counter. What? How? She was denied. 5 years, you said. Compassionate release. She's got cancer. Stage 4. Doctors say she's got maybe 3 months. The parole board reversed their decision. Compassionate release. I said the words like they were a foreign language. Patricia. Compassion. I know. I argued against it. The DA argued against it. But the medical recommendation was unanimous. She's dying, Danny. They didn't want her to die in prison. Where is she now? Released this morning. She was picked up by a woman matching Aunt Linda's description. I closed my eyes. Aunt Linda. Of course. Linda didn't tell me. She probably didn't want to upset you. Or maybe Patricia asked her not to. I'm sorry. I wanted you to hear it from me. Is she still a threat? If she's dying. I don't know. The doctors say she's weak. Wheelchair-bound. But I've seen people do crazy things with their last breath. Keep your security system on. Call me if anything happens. Anything at all. I hung up and stood in the bakery kitchen, surrounded by the smell of vanilla and sugar, feeling the past crash over me like a wave. I called Mark. He listened in silence. Do we tell the kids? He asked. Liam's old enough. Maya. I don't know. She's just starting to feel safe. Then we don't tell her. Not yet. Liam should know, though. He deserves to. That night, after Maya was asleep, we sat Liam down in the living room and told him. He listened with a stillness that reminded me of Mark. The old Mark. The one who'd learned to make himself small in the face of danger. Is she going to try to hurt us again? He asked. We don't know, I said. She's very sick. She might not have the strength. But we're going to be careful. Security system stays on. Nobody opens the door without checking. If you see anything weird, you tell us immediately. Okay. Are you scared? Mark asked. Liam thought about it. A little. But not like before. Before, I didn't understand what was happening. Now I do. She's a bad person, and she's dying, and she might want to do one last bad thing before she goes. That's just logic. I stared at my son. My 12-year-old son, who'd learned to process trauma like a therapist and assess threats like a security consultant. I didn't know whether to be proud or heartbroken. That's right, I said. That's exactly right. So we just have to be smarter than her. And we are. We are, Mark said. We absolutely are. 3 days later, the letter came. No postmark this time. No jail address. Just my name, written in Patricia's spidery handwriting, slipped through the mail slot in the middle of the night. Our security camera caught a blurry figure, Aunt Linda's car, idling at the curb, and then nothing. The letter was short. Danielle. I'm dying. There's nothing left to fight about. I want to see my grandson one last time before I go. Please. I'm begging you. I'll be at the park on Saturday at noon. Just you and Liam. I'll be alone. No tricks. No agenda. Just an old woman who wants to say goodbye. Please. Patricia. I read it 3 times. Then I handed it to Mark. Absolutely not, he said. Agreed. This is a trap. Probably. You're not going. I'm not going. I called Aunt Linda. She answered on the second ring, her voice heavy with guilt. I was going to tell you, she said. I just didn't know how. Is she really dying? Yes. Pancreatic cancer. She weighs about 90 pounds. She can barely eat. The doctors gave her 2 to 4 months, but honestly, I don't think she'll make it to Christmas. So the letter is real? She wants to see Liam? She says she does. But Danny, Linda hesitated. I don't trust her. Even now. Especially now. She's got nothing to lose. That makes her more dangerous, not less. Then why are you helping her? Because she's my sister. And because I'm the only one who can keep an eye on her. I convinced her to stay with me instead of renting some awful apartment. I monitor her phone. I control her meds. I'm basically a prison guard in a cardigan. She sighed. It's exhausting. I'm sorry. Don't be. I volunteered. Somebody had to make sure she didn't do something stupid on her way out. I hung up and looked at Mark. Linda's watching her. But Linda's also enabling her. Linda's trying to do the right thing for the wrong person, Mark said. I know the feeling. The next week was tense. We kept Liam home from school for a few days, told them it was a family emergency. Maya didn't understand what was happening, but she picked up on the anxiety and stayed close to me, coloring at the kitchen table while I worked on bakery orders from home. Then, on Saturday morning, the doorbell rang. I checked the security camera before opening. It was Aunt Linda, standing on the porch, looking like she hadn't slept in a week. I opened the door. She's gone, Linda said. What do you mean, gone? I mean I woke up this morning and she wasn't in her room. Her wheelchair is still there. Her meds are still there. But she's not. How does a 90-pound dying woman just disappear? Linda's face crumpled. I don't know. I don't know. I called the police. They're looking for her. But Danny, she left a note. It was under her pillow. She handed me a piece of paper. Patricia's handwriting, even shakier than before. Linda. You were always too soft. Don't blame yourself. I have one last thing to do. By the time you read this, it will already be done. P. I read the note twice. Then I called Detective Delgado. She's out, I said. She's somewhere, and she's got a plan, and we need to find her now. I'm putting out an alert. Stay in your house. Lock the doors. Do not leave. We're not going anywhere. I hung up and turned to Mark. Get the bat. He was already moving. We spent the next 3 hours in lockdown. Liam played video games in the living room, pretending to be calm. Maya colored, sensing the tension but not understanding it. Mark and I took turns watching the windows, checking the security cameras, jumping at every sound. At 2 o'clock, my phone rang. A number I didn't recognize. I answered. Hello, Danielle. Patricia's voice. Weak. Thready. But unmistakable. Where are you? I'm close. I've been watching your house. I saw the police cars. You called them, didn't you? I'm not going to hurt you, you paranoid fool. I just want to talk. Then talk. On the phone. No. Face to face. Come to the park. Bring Liam. I'll be waiting by the pond. I'm not bringing my son anywhere near you. Then I'll come to you. And I'll bring the gun. The line went dead. I stared at the phone. Mark. I heard. She has a gun. She's bluffing. Are you willing to bet our children's lives on that? He wasn't. Neither was I. I called Delgado. She's armed. Or says she is. She wants me to meet her at the park. Do not engage. We're 3 minutes out. Stay inside. She said she'd come here. Then we'll be there before she arrives. Stay inside. I hung up. Looked at Mark. Looked at Liam, who had paused his game and was watching us with wide eyes. Mom? It's okay, baby. The police are coming. Is Grandma Patricia coming here? She might be. Are you going to kick her again? Despite everything, I laughed. I don't think she'll give me the chance. Good, Liam said. She deserves it. Maya looked up from her coloring. Who deserves what? Nobody, sweetie, I said. Go back to your dragon. The police arrived in 4 minutes. 2 cruisers, lights flashing, parked at the curb. Delgado got out, hand on his holster, and jogged to our door. She's not at the park, he said. We checked. She's somewhere in the neighborhood. She said she's been watching the house. Then we'll find her. They swept the block. Checked the alley behind our house. Checked the neighbor's yard. Checked the old shed at the end of the street. Nothing. Patricia had vanished. She couldn't have gone far, Delgado said. She's on foot. Dying. 90 pounds. She's somewhere close. I looked around the living room. Liam. Maya. Mark. The windows. The doors. And then I saw it. The garage door. The side entrance, the one Mark used when he was working on his furniture. It was open. Just a crack. But open. Mark. Did you close the garage? He went pale. I thought so. But I was carrying lumber earlier. I might have. I didn't wait for him to finish. I grabbed my taser from the drawer and ran to the garage. The light was off. The space smelled like sawdust and varnish. Mark's latest project, a rocking chair for Maya, sat half-finished in the corner. And in the shadows behind it, a figure stirred. "Hello, Danielle." Patricia stepped into the light. She was unrecognizable. The woman who'd blocked my path at the barbecue had been stout and solid, radiating a lifetime of righteous fury. This woman was a skeleton wrapped in skin. Her eyes were sunken. Her hands trembled. She was wearing a stained bathrobe and slippers, and her gray hair hung in lank strings around her face. She was also holding a gun. It looked enormous in her frail hands. A revolver, old and heavy, the kind you inherit from a father who thought the world was out to get him. She pointed it at me with an arm that shook from the effort. "I told you I'd come to you," she said. "Patricia. Put the gun down." "No. Not until I've said what I came to say." "Then say it." She took a step closer. I could smell her, sweat and sickness and the sour perfume she'd worn my entire marriage. "You ruined my life," she said. "You turned my son against me. You turned my husband against me. You put my baby in prison. You destroyed everything I built. You built a house of cards on a foundation of poison. It was going to collapse eventually. I just gave it a push. You kicked me. You blocked the door while my son was dying. I was protecting Brandon. You were protecting a monster you created." Her hand tightened on the gun. "Don't you dare. Don't you dare judge me. You don't know what it's like to love a child so much you'd do anything for them." "I do know. That's exactly why I kicked you. Because I love my son more than I care about your feelings, your reputation, or your twisted definition of family. And I would do it again. Every single time." She stared at me. Her eyes, rheumy and yellowed with sickness, searched my face for something, fear, maybe. Weakness. The old Danny who would have backed down. She didn't find her. "I'm dying," she said. "Do you understand that? I'm dying, and the last thing I'll see is your face, and I want you to know, I want you to remember, that you did this. You killed me. The stress. The humiliation. The years in that place. It all started with you." "No," I said. "It started with you. Decades before I ever met you. I was just the one who finally stopped letting you win." She raised the gun higher. Her arm was shaking violently now. "I came here to kill you," she said. "That was the plan. Walk into your house. Shoot you in front of your family. Then shoot myself. A dramatic ending. A tragic ending. Everyone would blame you. Even in death, you'd be the villain. But I don't have the strength." She laughed, a dry rattle. "I walked 3 blocks and nearly collapsed. I can barely hold this gun. I'm not a monster, Danielle. I'm just a dying old woman." "No, Patricia. You're a dying old woman who's also a monster. The two aren't mutually exclusive." She looked at me for a long moment. Then she lowered the gun. "You really believe that?" "I know it. I have the evidence. I have the letters. I have the photographs. I have the security footage. You're not a tragic figure. You're a cautionary tale. And you're a heartless bitch. I'm a mother. Same as you. The difference is, I chose my child over my ego." She flinched. I'd finally hit something that hurt. Brandon, was he really so bad? He nearly killed my son. He planned to kidnap him. He wrote letters threatening to finish the job. He was a drug addict and a violent criminal, and you enabled every bit of it. So yes, Patricia. He really was so bad. And so were you." She swayed on her feet. The gun slipped from her fingers and clattered to the concrete floor. I kicked it away before she could change her mind. "I'm tired," she whispered. I'm so tired. I know. I don't want to die alone. Then you should have been a better person. I heard footsteps behind me. Delgado, his gun drawn. 2 uniformed officers. Mark, holding the baseball bat. Danny? Mark's voice was strained. Are you okay? I'm fine. She's unarmed. Delgado holstered his weapon and approached Patricia. Ma'am, you're under arrest for violating the restraining order, making terroristic threats, and felony possession of a firearm. You have the right to remain silent. Patricia didn't resist. She barely seemed to hear him. She just stood there, a husk of the woman who'd terrorized us for a decade, and let them put the handcuffs on her. As they led her out of the garage, she stopped and turned to look at me one last time. Was it worth it? She asked. All of this. Was it worth it? I looked past her, through the garage door, into the kitchen. Mark was there, holding Maya on his hip. Liam stood beside him, one hand on his sister's back. Every second, I said. They took her away. Patricia died 6 weeks later, in a prison hospital bed, with no one but a chaplain at her side. Aunt Linda called to tell me. She asked for you, Linda said. At the end. She wanted to apologize. I don't know if she meant it, but she wanted to say it. Did she say anything else? She said she should have aimed higher. Linda laughed, a sad, bewildered sound. I don't know what that means. I do, I said. It's a long story. We didn't go to the funeral. Neither did Robert. Neither did Aunt Linda. In the end, she decided, after everything, that Patricia had used up her last chance. Brandon, still in prison, was not permitted to attend. It was a small, sad affair, I heard. A handful of distant relatives who remembered Patricia from before she'd become what she became. A minister who'd never met her. A grave in a plot she'd bought for herself 30 years earlier, next to a husband who'd chosen to be buried somewhere else. Robert had already made his own arrangements. He and Gloria had bought adjoining plots in a cemetery near their new condo in Arizona. I'm not spending eternity next to that woman, he told us. I did my time. And that, I thought, was the real ending. Not Patricia's death. Not the arrests or the trials. The real ending was Robert, 75 years old, learning to ride a motorcycle with his new wife, laughing into the desert wind. The real ending was Mark, covered in sawdust, building something that would outlast him. The real ending was Liam, now a teenager, signing up for a geology camp in Montana. The real ending was Maya, who'd stopped hoarding food and started leaving her bedroom door open at night. The real ending was me. I still thought about the barbecue sometimes. Not often, once a month, maybe, when I was kneading dough or frosting cupcakes and my mind drifted. I thought about the sound Liam's head made when it hit the hearth. The weight of him in my arms as I ran to the car. The crack of my shoe against Patricia's knee. I didn't regret any of it. Not the kick. Not the trials. Not the years of stress and therapy and learning to trust my own anger. It had all been necessary. It had all been worth it. Because my son was alive. My daughter was safe. My husband was free. And I had become a woman who didn't wait for permission to protect the people she loved. Spitfire Sweets had a 10th anniversary party that fall. We closed the shop for the day, filled the display cases with champagne and mini cupcakes, and invited everyone who'd been part of our story. Detective Delgado came, now retired, with his wife and their new grandbaby. Aunt Linda came, still sharp and funny and carrying a purse large enough to qualify as a weapon. Robert and Gloria rode in on the motorcycle, Gloria's gray hair streaming behind her like a banner. Liam, home for fall break, brought his geology textbooks and showed everyone the fossils he'd found in Montana. Maya, now 10 and fierce, helped me frost the cupcakes and told anyone who'd listen that she was going to be a baker like her mom. And Mark. Mark stood in the corner, watching the crowd, a glass of champagne in his hand and sawdust still in his hair. I went over and leaned against him. "Happy anniversary," I said. 10 years. Can you believe it? Honestly? No. I thought we'd be dead or divorced by year 3. Same. He kissed the top of my head. Thank you. For what? For not giving up on me. For kicking my mother. For being the scariest person I know. I laughed. I'm not scary. You drop-kicked a 68-year-old woman through a buffet table and then opened a bakery about it. You're terrifying. And I love you. I love you too, you reformed goldfish. He groaned. You're never going to let that go, are you? Never. It's in the wedding vows. That night, after everyone had gone home, I stood in the empty bakery and looked around at what I'd built. The pink neon sign. The glass cases. The framed newspaper article about the Cupcake Queen. The photo of Liam at age 5, holding a dinosaur, that I'd hung behind the counter. We'd come so far. From that terrible Sunday to this quiet, joyful life. From fear to safety. From silence to shouting. I thought about Patricia one last time. Not with anger. Not with triumph. Just with a kind of exhausted pity. She could have had this, I thought. She could have been part of this. All she had to do was love her children the right way. Protect them instead of possessing them. Let them grow instead of controlling them. She couldn't do it. So she lost everything. I turned off the lights and locked the door. Outside, the stars were out. Mark was waiting in the car. At home, 2 kids were probably still awake, pretending to be asleep. Tomorrow, there would be cupcakes to bake and homework to check and 1,000 small, ordinary problems to solve. Ordinary problems. The luxury of a life without monsters. I got in the car. Ready? Mark asked. Ready. We drove home through the quiet streets, past the park where Patricia had wanted to meet, past the school where she'd tried to take Liam, past the hospital where we'd waited through that endless night. All those ghosts. All those battlefields. And here we were, still standing. Still fighting. Still together. If I had to do it all again, I wouldn't change a thing. Not the pain. Not the fear. Not the kick. Especially not the kick. Some people need to be kicked. And some mothers need to learn that when you come for a woman's children, you'd better not miss. Because she won't.